Welcome, everybody. So as you see, it's a multinational audience. Pretty much everybody speaking their second language. Not a problem. I'm going to give you a short introduction to today. Cute, huh? That's me. Approximately 1981 with my cousin, Fabio. I grew up in South Africa. South Africa was a great place to grow up. I was blissfully unaware of the fact that my government was trying to exclude an entire group of the population based on the color of their skin. But other than that, I had sunshine, and it was the place I called home, a place where I felt included. And I'm one of those incredibly lucky people in the world that goes home to South Africa and comes home to Norway. I have two families, both on the African continent and in Europe. Two places where I'm not an outsider. Two places where I'm allowed to participate in society. A place where I have a job, a home. A place where I feel like I belong. Does anyone know what this number is? It's not that easy to guess. According to the World Bank and Google, this is the number of people that were on the planet when that photo was taken in 1981. 4,521,000,000. No. Yeah, that number. That's how many people were on the planet in 1981. I'm not sure how they work it out, but they do. And on the 15th of November, last year, 2022, something happened. Does anyone know what happened? We passed 8 billion people on the planet. That's quite a journey, 4.5 billion to 8 billion. And they say that the next billion, that we're going to reach that in approximately 2037, a mere 15 years from now. Outsiderness. That S was supposed to be up there. Utenforskap, that wonderful Norwegian word. It's funny, the Norwegian language has far less words than the English language, but it has some really great words. Utenforskap. I struggled a little bit because the word outsiderness, it's not really a word I use in English. It's not really a word I've really ever had an association to. But a little bit of Googling and a little bit of help, I figured out that that is actually the translation for utenforskap. And that's what today is all about, utenforskap, outsiderness. The definition of outsiderness. Don't you love that pronunciation guide? I wouldn't have a clue how to pronounce that word if I read that. Outsiderness is a noun, the state of being an outsider. It's actually a pretty horrible word. It means outsider. Has anyone ever felt like they've been an outsider? A non-member, a newbie, an intruder, an unknown. I'm often the odd one out. But sometimes it's positive. A lot of times it's not. That feeling of being included. Raise your hand if you've ever felt like an outsider. Yeah? Everybody's felt like an outsider at some point. Most of the time we kind of get over it. I know I felt like an outsider. I felt like an outsider when I was dumped, sorry mum, in boarding school, St. Mary's Diocesan School for Girls, in South Africa, 6 hours away from home, at the age of 11, to fend for myself. Nothing in my life pre-boarding school could have prepared me for life at an all-girls boarding school in South Africa. But it didn't take long. It didn't take long before I had a giggling group of girlfriends that I spent 24/7 with, because that's the joy of boarding school. You get to spend 24 hours a day with your friends and your enemies. And I felt included. And that's an amazing feeling. But what happens when you never find your gang? What happens if you never end up being able to participate at work, at school, society? Here's another figure I Googled my way to a couple of days ago. 341 billion. That is the cost in the Norwegian budget that they estimate outsiderness costs. Outsiderness. Now, the figure below, 191 billion, is the official kroner amount in the Norwegian budget. But the number above, 341 billion, is the cost, including loss of earnings, loss of taxes, cost to the judicial and health system. The 191 billion, those are direct costs. That's what we pay out because of outsiderness. And that's a problem, because every single kroner or euro used to fight this problem is a kroner not being used on schools, hospitals, public transport, roads. Those kroners could be used for so many other things, but now they need to be used to combat outsiderness. Now, this is a number I struggled to find yesterday. I struggled to find earlier on this week. 8%. It's the best figure I could come up with. That's what they estimate is the number of people in Norway, 8% of the population that are considered as part of outsiderness. Now, the definition of outsiderness in Norway in this regard are people outside of the work, school, education system, outside of society, not being able to contribute. 8%. That's a lot of people. In Norway, that represents 400,000 people. That's a lot of people. Now, that means that these people are not participating at schools, universities, places of work. They're not getting an education. They're not being able to contribute to society. They're not getting that quality of life that Toril talked about, which so many of us are so lucky to have every day because we have a job or a school or a university, a place we feel like we belong, where we can contribute to society. These are not just, they don't all look the same, these people. They're young, they're old, they're disabled, they maybe speak a different language, they have different color skin, they are neurodiverse, but they all have one thing in common. They're sitting on the outside. I don't know what the figure is for the rest of the world, but I can assume it's pretty much the same wherever we go, that 8%. Maybe a little bit higher some places, a little bit less. Now, when Jan asked me to take on today, he asked me to inspire you all this morning. And as you probably hear, I haven't been feeling that great. I got hit with a serious dose of flu and spent 5 days in bed last week. And I've been working at a snail's pace this week. So I decided my inspiration factor was pretty low. But I could challenge you. This I could do. So my challenge to you all today is to be present. Be present here. We've got some amazing speakers coming on stage today, speaking English, a language that they're not familiar with, but they have so much great information they want to impart. We're also going to spend part of the day, at the end of the day, summarizing so that we can provide some information for the members of the project. So I hope that most of you will be staying until the very end today. So be present here. Make a connection. Speak to somebody you've not met before. Speak a language you don't speak on a regular basis. But be here. So before you start, I'm glad that each and every single one of you made it here to Sandefjord today. And before we go further, turn to the person next to you and tell them how glad you are that they made it to Sandefjord today. Thank you.